Hey guys, welcome to another Jafo Paints video. Today we are doing Mila from Massive Darkness. If you've been watching a couple of our seasons of Massive Darkness, she has been the starring character for Jafo, also known as Booberella. So here we go. This is the miniature. We've already got her primed with our Mechanicus Standard Gray. Gonna take a little quick look off camera while we're looking here. Yeah, I got a good primer coat on her today. So here in front of you, minus the tuft of grass, is all of the paints that I plan on using. I'll kind of go over what we've got. We've got the three colors: Bugman's Glow, Cadian Flesh Tone, Kislev Flesh. That's going to do the majority of our model. We've got Corn Red, which I think we're going to highlight with some Wazdaka Red once we get to that far. That will cover her brassiere and arm sleeve thing. We've got, for the pink gemstone, I don't have a pink of that color, so we're going to do some Stormhost Silver and some Soulstone Blue. We're going to give her a pretty blue gemstone around her neck. That is not the right color either. People keep moving my paints in my pots, in my backpacks. If I can find it, and when I find it, we'll need... Oh no, that is the right color. Ha! I'm losing my mind already. Steel Legion Drab. That is going to give us her hair color. XV88 is going to do all the leather strappings. We're going to use some Nagaroth Night to cover up that backpack of hers. Some Lead Belcher to do the swords, Retributor Armor to do the hilts. When we need it, we will use some Null Oil to shade. That's going to go on the cloak. Reikland Flesh Shade is going to go on the skin. And then the cloak of the model, I've decided we're going to do this as a White Fox type cloak. So we're going to start with a base of ceramite white. We're going to ink it black. We're going to dry brush it white scar once or twice or three times. And then we're going to dry brush it with Praxetti white, and that's just going to make it pop and look like a snow fox, snow leopard kind of a thing. It'll look really cool when we're done. So that is what I've got for you right there. We'll start getting down. We'll start up with our flesh tone. Be right back. Alright, so the first color we're going to start with today is Bugman's Glow. That is going to be the base of our skin tone and pretty much the majority of this, the front half of this model. So I think we're going to work on that one, and I think I want to get that done before I throw down the white on the cloak. Because, again, of the quality of our, or the size of our model, we're going to start with our small layer brush. If you notice, I've got myself a painting handle today. It's just something that I can hold on to and put a grip onto, so that I can work on this model a little bit easier without getting anything or any paint on myself. I'd like to go home for once today without having paint on my body, at least not on purpose. So I think actually it's easiest. We're actually just going to do an all-over paint job on her. Make sure you thin down your paints. You want to get two thin coats when you do this. We're just going to go all the way over all of her skin in Bugman's Glow, and we'll actually come back and we'll show you what it looks like. And with that, we have our Bugman's Glow skin color on. Don't worry if you splitched over like I did, like the strapping on her thong there, or you're slightly brain dead when you're painting in the morning and you realize that this red sleeve that you painted flesh tone is not going to be flesh tone. We can go over that with our reds. So the next thing that we're going to work on is we're actually going to pop out all that leather. So we're going to get our XV88 going, and we will paint up all of the leather strappings on her. Again, make sure you get a couple of dollops onto your paint palette here. You're not going to need a lot, as this is a very small model. And yes, so you want to thin down your paint a little bit. Sticking with our small layer brush, we're going to pick out all of the thin, 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 thin lines, which is the one here leading off of her thong, the strap around her thighs. There is 2 of those, and just anywhere. We're also going to hit up most of the backpacking area right there, and that's what we got. I'll show you in a second. There you go. We now have the XV88, which is our leather. So we've got the backpack, the straps. And you know what? I'm going to make an executive decision here, and I think we're going to paint the bottom of her boots brown, like leather brown. And then all the rest of that fur will be white, so that'll give it a nice contrast look. So just paint that real quick. With this model, she seems very thin compared to our last model of the elephant. So just want to be careful what you're doing and take your time going around, making sure you get all your colors where you want them. We'll do another quick overlay here. And there you go. So the next color that I'm going to move on to is corn red. It's a little bit deeper red color. I'll show you what I got on my palette here. Of course, it's been thinned down a little bit with water, and we're going to use that to get the inner, or the colors that are on her brassiere, her panties, I guess, thong, whatever you want to call them, the sleeve that we partially colored flesh on this side, the sleeve on this side. So that's just going to add some drastic coloring to our model. And now you want to be very, very careful with how you're going through, because you're starting to get drastic color changes. If you get some red in where you don't belong, try and wipe it off. Otherwise, get a lot of water on your bristles and flood the area, and it should come clean. This is a water-based paint we're using, always using acrylics. So we'll show you what that looks like in a bit. So there we go. We now have our corn red on there. Gives her bra and thong and arm sleeves. Just adds a little bit of color now to our model. It's actually starting to look like something special. So now the next color that I'm going to use is Steel Legion Drab. I'm going to use that to kind of give her that dirty blonde, that dirty brunette look for her hair. Again, now that you're getting close to starting to mix colors, you just need to go a little bit carefuler, a little bit more cautious. That's probably a better way to say that. And take your time going around in her hair, making sure that not to essentially cross-contaminate your colors. I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. There we go. And with the Steel Legion Drab applied, we now have, I don't know, some hair color to her. Let's move on to Lead Belcher. Lead Belcher, we're going to need to be very careful. We're going to do the swords. We are going to do the elbow pad back here, and I know there's a leg pad right here, and then you need to be very careful doing it, but I have set it up. We're going to do the metal trimming around her sleeve on both sides, as well as around the bra area. So I'll show you where we're going here. First area that we're looking at is right here. Just want to put your silver there. Again, be careful. Try not to, mix your colors. You need to start being very cautious. No cross-contaminating of paints anymore. We're going to, of course, do our swords in Lead Belcher. It's just a good gunmetal gray. There we go, and we'll show you what that all looks like when we come back. Alright, there we go. Let's bring that so you can see it in now that we're done. If you notice, I got a little bit of silver paint on the cup of her brassiere. So I just wanted to show you guys that even Jafo does screw up from time to time. Just go back over with your red paint. Paint that over. Might also be easier if you paint the silver first and then do the red. That way you can just kind of slop on the silver. Yes, I said slop. And you can just clean it up afterwards. You want to make sure that you know what you're staring at and that everything is getting some color. So we're going to get just one final strip right here. And that's that. The next thing that we're going to do with this, we're going to tag that backpack bedroll. If you look at her card, I can get that in the frame. If you look at her card is a purple bedroll. So we're going to put the purple bedroll on her so that she looks more like her card. Get that on, and I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. And with that, our backpack is complete, or our bedroll is complete. We have 2 remaining colors to do. One is real simple, light color. I'll show you real quick. We're going to do the hilts of our swords in Retributor Gold. Retributor armor. So we'll do that, and that really just kind of gives those swords some distinction. And then it is on to the most difficult color to do, white. I saved this one for last because this way, if you did any splash over on any of the cloth, it would, to me, it would be a little bit easier to just go back over it 2 or 3 or 12 times. Joking on the 12. Maybe. No, seriously. If you're careful with what you do, you should be able to get it. And we're going to ink that black, so 1 or 2 good wipes of gold or of white, and you should be okay. So there we go. We've got some gold on there. We're going to put our white on. We'll get that set up. So the last color that we've got to go with, as my camera is falling, is ceramite white. We'll get that on our palette, and I'll start showing you what that looks like in a second. Alright, now that we got our ceramite white thinned down a little bit, it is time to do all of the fur. You're going to look. This might be one of the few times I actually switch off of my small layer brush, because we do have quite a bit to go off of. Find yourself a little bit bigger. I'm going to use an old Citadel standard brush. And it'll just allow me to apply paint a lot faster. Keep your small layer brush at hand as you get closer to some of the other details. You don't want to have to repaint any of that, as I make sure to keep this actually in the camera. So we're just going to keep working on this, and we'll be right back to show you what that looks like. And there we go. With that, we have the white cloak done. And as I've always stated in all my previous videos, if you wanted to stop now, I think that would actually be a fantastic time you could stop, and that would add high quality, high definition to your game of Massive Darkness. But in true Jafo style, we're not done yet. So the next step that we're going to do is we're going to do 2 different shades. We're going to use Reikland Flesh Shade, and for that, let me grab my pointer stick here, also known as my brush. For that, we're going to do all of the flesh tones. We're going to do the leather in that. We're going to do the red in that. So we got all of that. We're going to then switch over to Null Oil, our favorite ever. Always Null Oil. I know it'll be weird when you say adding black to a white model, but we're going to put it all over the white cloak, into her hair, over the swords, of course. I think that'll be about it, and that should pretty much cover everything that we want to do. I think we're going to leave the we'll see what we feel like when we get to the red armor parts. So that's what we're going to do. I'll do that real quick, then I'll come back and show you. And with that, with our shade applied, our model looks even better than it did a minute ago. It brought out a lot of the details to that cloak. It's going to bring out a little bit more details to the body, as you can see. So that you actually see exactly what I did with Reikland Flesh Shade, we went over all of the body. We went over the oh, I forgot the tan boots down below. So you can see that I'm going to do that real quick. Cover the tan boots a little bit, and that. We also went over the backpacks back here, all of the face, and that's that. Over the rest of the model, we used some Null Oil, that black shader. Of course, that's what gives us a definition in the white here. We also did go over the all the silver parts as well as the red in everywhere. I did not do the brassiere, and I think that'll leave that a little bit better. I did do the thong, which I realized after I did it was a mistake, and I will be just brightening that back up as we get water on our miniature. There we go. So the next step from there is to highlight. First step will be to take Cadian flesh tone, and we're going to go over most of her body and covering that in a little bit brighter paint as we work our way up to that very white flesh that she has showing. Alright, so what we're going to do here is a 2-to-1 mixture. Actually, I decided to go up a little bit farther faster. One blob of Cadian flesh tone and 2 blobs of Kislev flesh, which gets us something that looks like that on our palette. That is what we're going to use now with a small layer brush. As always, we're going to go over pretty much all of the flesh on her body. As you guys can't see what I'm painting because I'm still not used to my camera yet. So we're going to put all that on. We'll show you what that looks like in a little bit. And with our 2-to-1 ratio, 2 blobs of Kislev flesh to 1 blob of Cadian flesh tone, we've got it looking like this. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to do just straight Kislev flesh over her face, over her skin, and it's going to brighten it up a little bit more. And it's going to make it look a lot closer to our card here, because that's what we're aiming for, that milky white look of flesh. So you're just going to want to make sure your paint is thinned down. Go over all of the areas that light will hit. Like I will probably do this, probably not towards the back. And then something like that. So when we're done, just like I've also already done down to her bikini line of her stomach, and a little bit of the underneath we're going to leave darker so that it gives it a little bit of definition. The tops of her chest we will do, the unders of her chest we probably will not. You're going to want to do the insides of the shoulders as I keep rocking my camera for you guys. So you can see right there. We're just going to tighten up all that a little bit, make it look a little bit cleaner. We'll show you when we're done. And with that, I believe, in my opinion, our skin is highlighted. So the next one I'm going to move on to is we're going to move on to Wazdaka Red. We're going to thin that down just a little bit like before. And we're going to highlight her armor, the downstairs, the upstairs, and the arm sleeves. I don't know what to make this to say that to not get banned by YouTube. So the bikini line, we'll just call it. And we're just going to kind of go over there. We're going to leave some of that red or darker red showing like that. And we'll show you what it looks like when we're done. Alright, there we go. We've highlighted up the red. We leave a little bit of that darker red around the edges, underneath the arms there. Excuse me. Her bikini, just the outer circles of the red on the bra brings that out. So now we're going to bring back out our Steel Legion drab, and we're just going to kind of go through, and we're just going to kind of pick out some of the hair piece, some of her hair, and brighten that up a little bit, leaving the shadow in the recesses so that she's just got a little bit more definition. It'll give a little more light and look to her hair. Like so. So there we go. And then after that, we're going to get into Xerxes Purple. a highlight of the bag. And I'll come back and show you what we all got done with that. Alright, with that, so we've done a minor edge highlight. You probably can't even notice it on this camera. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. I currently cannot. But we did edge highlight up her hair. It kind of brought some life into it. Trying to get it to focus really good on that. We edged that, and now we're going to take some Gene Stealer purple, which as you can see is a really light purple. I'll show you here on my palette in a second. So this one right in the middle. We're going to take that, and we're just going to touch that around the edges here. I'm going to give that there. It's going to give that just that little bit of a more bright, kind of light look to it. I'm just going to edge just all the sharpest edges on this piece right here. Real simple. And there you go. And that just kind of brings a little bit more life and depth to that model. So the next one we're going to go on to, we're going to switch over to our XV88 again. We're just going to kind of brighten up the bags and the shoes just a little bit. Make sure you put a little bit of that on your palette. And we'll show you what it looks like in a minute. And with that, we're almost nearing completion. We've got a couple steps left here. So we just brighten up the bags a little bit so they look a little bit brighter, but that shading we gave them darkens those recesses and kind of gives them a little more three-dimensionality. So the next thing we're going to use, because that's what we have out, is our Stormhouse Silver. So the first thing that we got to do, we got to prepare for our gemstone. So we're going to get that one done. And that is just a simple little blob right here, right above there. So just a simple little gemstone. Then what we're going to do is just a real quick edge highlight of this. I'm going to pick out the tip there, run this up the edge of the blade on both sides. And we're going to do that on this one as well. And all you're going to do is just going to use like the flat of your brush and just pull it carefully down. And all that does is it just gives it a little bit of gleam, a little bit of shine. We're just going to do the tops of the brassiere that has the metal ring. Same around the edges of the armor plating here, the sleeves. Anywhere you think light would actually hit this, remember we are warriors of shadow, so, and that finishes up. Oh, wait, we almost forgot a piece. Let's quick get that. We'll just get the rivets on this. And there we go. That finishes up our silver. And then comes to the last step that we need to do. Last step, we do need to get out a new brush. So we put them all away. We're going to use a small dry brush. Something that looks like this. And we are going to switch over to our Praxetti White. If you guys remember from our previous videos on how to do dry brushing, get yourself some paper towel, which I've got here. We'll apply some paint to the brush. Like so. We will end up wiping off most of this. And if you are using the Citadel dry brush compounds that are Praxetti White, be careful, it is a lot of pigment. And then we're just going to start dry brushing. And we're going to do probably 2 good layers of this. And what this will do is this picks up all the highlights and leaves all that black down in the lowlights there to kind of give our cloak definition. So I'll get working on that, and I'll show you what it looks like in a minute. And with that, bring that white up, and I think that just makes it pop a lot more. If you don't like what you're doing, you take your time at it. Dry brushing is a good, easy technique to learn. If you're not careful with it, though, it can be very dangerous, and you can end up wrecking your model. Because of how it works, if you do get a little bit of your paint elsewhere, you should be able to wipe it off. So the last step that I got to do for this model, for me to be complete with what I want to do, is we're going to paint that gemstone. We're going to give it blue. And we're using Soulstone Blue. It's a GW Technical paint. And we're just going to, because of how small it is, we don't even have to use any techniques on this. We're just going to kind of bloob. I like that term, bloob. Bloob some paint on there. And let that dry. And with that Stormhost Silver underneath, that's going to make that just pop out and look like she's got a blue gemstone that's holding her cloak together. Go one more blue. There, just like that. All that's left to do is to base our model, which all of my models are in, all of my heroes at least, are in the Dawnstone. So we will put a little bit of that on our paint. We'll base up our model, and I'll show you what that looks like, what we got for a finished model. We'll be right back. And with that, our Mila is finally done. I'll give you a slow turn. You guys can take a look at what I all did. Overall, not too hard of a miniature. There's a lot more color and definition to this than I was expecting originally. I don't know if I showed you guys earlier, but I did bring up the leather bracers. That is holding on the one piece of metal on her thigh. I personally am not a fan of flesh tone, so this to me was an actual personal challenge, and I think I did pretty darn well. Let me know in the comments down below what you think. If there is a model you would actually like to see me paint next, please put in the comments down below. I have the entire series of Massive Darkness that is available right now, including all of the Kickstarter bonuses. So, like, comment, subscribe to my channel, see more painting videos. If there is anything you want to see me paint, Massive Darkness or some other board games I may have, once again, let me know in the comments down below. There are lots of ways to paint this figure. This is the way Jafo paints it. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.